Good morning, students. Today's topic is transpiration. So before knowing about the transpiration, we have to recall our previous chapter, absorption by root. So what we learnt in that chapter? We learnt that the waters are absorbed by the root, and that water is travels through the plant by the help of xylem and reaches near the leaves. So the total amount of water which is absorbed by the root, out of it only 10% of water is utilized by the plant. Then where is the other 90% of water? The other 90% of waters are generally the waste product for the plant. That's why it comes out. So the water which is the waste product for the plant, how it comes out? It comes out through the leaves and stems of the plant in the form of water vapor. That process is known as transpiration. So what is the definition of transpiration? The loss of water from the leaves and stems of the plant in the form of water vapor is known as transpiration. If the loss of water is known as transpiration, then what is the definition of evaporation? Or because evaporation is also same definition, the loss of water. If evaporation is also same definition, then what is the difference between evaporation and transpiration? Generally, the evaporation occurs both living as well as non-living bodies, whereas the transpiration occurs in only living plant cell. In evaporation, the loss of water occurs from the free surface of water bodies like your rivers, ponds and oceans. Whereas in transpiration, the loss of water occurs from the living cells or from the surface of the living cell. Generally, the evaporation is the faster process than the transpiration. So this is the difference between evaporation and transpiration. Now, we will do one demonstration so that it will prove that the plant shows the transpiration or transpiration occurs in a plant. We will take one well-watered potted plant and we will take 2 polythene. One polythene will cover the plant and another polythene we will keep as if. And that plant we will take and place under the sunlight for 2 to 3 hours, so that after 2 to 3 hours we will find that some water droplets are placed in the inner surface of the polythene. Whereas the other polythene which is kept as if, there is no water droplet inside the polythene. How it occurs? What I told, in transpiration, the loss of water occurs from the plant. So when the sunlight placed on the plant, at that time the transpiration occurs, and the excess water which is placed inside the plant, that waters comes out of the plant in the form of water vapor, and that water vapor are placed in the inner surface of the polythene. So this proves that the transpiration occurs in the plant. Next, we will discuss the types of transpiration. So as I told you that the transpiration occurs through the leaves and stems. On the basis of that, the transpiration is divided into 3 types. One is your stomatal transpiration, then cuticular transpiration and lenticular transpiration. So first we will read about the stomatal transpiration. Before knowing about the stomatal transpiration, we have to know what is stomata or what is the structure of a stomata. Generally, the stomata have 2 kidney-shaped cell. The stomata have 2 kidney-shaped cell which is known as your guard cell. And that 2 cells, or inside the 2 cells, 2 centrally placed nucleus are present. Nucleus are present. and the guard cells are filled with chloroplast. Chloroplast. And the guard cells are in between the two guard cell, one small pore-like structures are present that is known as stomatal pore. Stomatal pore. So this is the structure of your stomata. Generally, the stomatas are present on the surface of the lips, mainly in the dorsal surface of the lips. So for proving that the stomatas are generally present in the lower surface of the lips, for proof that we will take two leaves and two cobalt chloride papers. And in one leaf, on the upper surface, we will place the cobalt chloride paper, and in other leaves, in the lower surface or in the dorsal surface, we will place the cobalt chloride paper. Here we will place in the lower surface, and here we will place in the upper surface. So after sometimes what we will find, or what is the main function of the cobalt chloride paper? The main function of the cobalt chloride paper is, when the cobalt chloride paper comes in contact with water, it will change its color from blue to pink color. That's why after sometimes we will find that the cobalt chloride paper which is placed in the lower surface of the lips, that paper will turns to pink color. So how it turns to pink color? Because in the lower surface of the lips, the water vapors are present. That's why it turns pink in color. So here it proves that in the lower surface of the lips, generally the stomatas are present. Next, the stomatas, when the light or when the sunlight is present, at that time the stomatas are open, and when the sunlight is absent, the stomatas are closed. How is possible? When the sunlight is present, at that time what happened? The photosynthesis occur, and when the photosynthesis occur, it produces sugars, or it produces the glucose, and that glucose or sugars are stored inside the cell of or guard cell of the stomata. And as we learnt before about the hypotonic and isotonic solution, what we learnt, that when the cell is concentrated, at that time the the water which is present out of the cell, that will absorbed by the cell and becomes lower concentrated. That's why when the cells are having more amount of sugar, at that time it absorbs more amount of water from the outside or from the neighbor cell. And when it absorbs more amount of water, at that time the cells bulges out. Here you can see that the cells bulges out. And when the cells bulges out, so one pore-like structure you will found, because the cells will comes out, bulges out or comes out and forms a pore-like structure that is known as a stomatal pore. But when the light is absent, at that time what happened? Due to exoosmosis, that the cell become what? Flacid. And when the cell become flaccid, at that time the water comes out and become flattened. The cells become flattened. That's why when the sunlight is present, the stomatal pores are open, and when the sunlight is absent, the stomatal pores are absent. Now, so this is all about the stomatal transpiration. So the transpiration which occurs through the stomata is known as stomatal transpiration. Now comes to the next, cuticular transpiration. Before knowing about the cuticular transpiration, we have to know what is cuticles. You can see in that leaf one waxy-like surface is there, or waxy-like substance is found on the upper surface. That waxy-like substance is known as your cuticles. So what is the work of that cuticles? Generally the cuticles prevents the loss of water, and the cuticles becomes thick in that plant which requires more amount of water. Generally the cuticles are thicker. You can see the thicker cuticles in your desert plants, because in desert the water scarcity is there and the plants requires water. That's why the thick cuticles prevents the loss of water from the plant. So the transpiration which occurs from the cuticles is known as cuticular transpiration. Now comes to the next transpiration, that is lenticular transpiration. What do you mean by lenticles? Generally the lenticles are the permanent opening of the cell which is present in the woody stems. In the woody stems we will see the permanent opening of the cell. So what is the difference between stomata and lenticles? Generally the stomata can close and open, as we learnt now. It can close and open, whereas the lenticles are the permanent opening cells. It cannot close. So the transpiration which occurs through the lenticles, that is known as lenticular transpiration. So this is all about the stomatal transpiration, cuticular transpiration and lenticular transpiration. In next period we will, or in next video we will read about the measuring of rate of transpiration. Thank you. Have a nice day.